I'm Dr. Denise Hurd, Director of Research for the U.S. Poultry and Egg Association. Today, I am delighted to be speaking with Dr. Pratima Adhikari about one of her current research projects funded by U.S. Poultry and its foundation. Dr. Adhikari is an assistant professor in the Poultry Science Department at Mississippi State University. Welcome, Dr. Adhikari, and thank you for sharing your research with us today.
Thank you for the opportunity, Dr. Hurd, and thanks to U.S. Poultry Foundation for funding this study. It is a wonderful feeling to talk and share my research highlights and what I will be doing in the next few months.
Thank you. So to get started, the title of the study is Role of Ratios of Limestone Particle Size and Phytase to Support Late Lay and Single-Cycled Laying Hens, focused on eggshell quality. We know that modern egg-laying breeds are now able to lay at a high rate past 80 weeks of age. This has resulted in an increase in single cycling of layer flocks and an increased focus on late cycle shell quality. Soft shells or unsellable eggs are a major challenge for our egg industry, particularly in the late laying cycle. How will this study help answer the question as to if there is a way to feed birds and maintain shell quality in late lay?
Thank you for the question. Yeah, this is something very exciting I wanted to explore. Extended lay is something an egg industry at the moment, and regardless of any genetics. So the modern laying hens genetics are supposed to go well as long as for 100 weeks. But there are still many issues associated with the nutrition and also management of this bird that are in a long laying cycle. The major problem is the thin-shelled eggs and also the unsellable eggs that are broken, did not reach a minimum weight, and just been very easily cracked even in the hen house when we go and just see the eggs or just touch it. So this research is focused on finding out if there is any strategies for better egg quality, which is pertaining to the egg strength and overall hen health in this extended length cycle. We did a preliminary study in our lab. I just want to add this. It was about 2 years ago to see if the feeding technique, so we applied two techniques, split and a conventional, that would make a difference in eggshell strength and egg quality. And if we can increase this coarse level of limestone to as high as 100%, what would be the impact on the bird health and the eggshell quality? It turned out that regardless of the way of feeding, the higher doing a better job in at least maintaining the eggshell breaking strength as I would compare to what has been already fed in the industry. As you know, most of the shell in the eggs are formed during the nighttime and having a coarse calcium there for a longer period before even hen go back to the feed next morning. And that coarse particle would be retained in the gut or gizzard and help the slow release of that calcium, and that would overall should improve the eggshell quality the next day. Another interesting observation in the field in the layer study has been the use of phytase enzyme. There is a lack of knowledge in higher dose of phytase used in laying hens as compared to what that has been used in broilers or swine industry. Feedback from a commercial laying hen industry has been somewhat higher phytase inclusion has also shown a negative effect sometimes in the egg quality. So we know the use of phytase will release bound phosphorus and make more calcium and phosphorus available, which should actually help layers, but sometimes we hear exact opposite. So we want to investigate the role of this phytase and the particle size of limestone together this time, and also the relationship between these two in improving the egg and also the bone quality in late laying hens. And I think the study will help to learn about the main effect just of the limestone that we go higher ratio, higher level of course, and then the interaction of these phytase and limestone on various production parameters like egg, shell, bone health, production parameters, and of course will help the layer industry to address the problem.
Again. Your research goals and methodology appear unique from other previous studies conducted in layer nutrition. Has this approach ever been investigated before? And if so, was it successful?
That is also a very good question. So far, I know there hasn't been any similar methods that have been used before. The concept of feeding phytase in Langhand feed has been practiced, though, for a number of years now. There are several of research published with a different level of phytase, mostly of up to, though, 500 FTU, if not lower than that, like 300 FTU. And only these few ranging would be of the higher levels. But most of them have shown positive responses when we look into the tibia ash, like the bone health. But there were very conflicting reports in a performance. And that would also include the egg quality, which is the eggshell strength we are trying to focus. However, in a practical formulation, we have been practicing this 500 FTU always. So any commercial layer diet will have to have a phytase these days, and no doubt. But then we're not going higher than that. But when you look into that other industry, broiler or pig industry, they have been using and they have been very successfully used with this higher level of phytase. Similarly, there are studies that look into the particle size of limestone earlier, but again, this is only in the younger hens and not necessarily going the hen past 40 weeks, 50 weeks, or even into the late. So our approach has been to look this phytase going in higher level, and that's why we say it's super dosing, 1500 FTU, like a high dose, and also look at a coarser limestone particle size at the same time and their interaction. Moreover, our study also focused on understanding from 40 weeks, that's when we're going to start our study, to the late cycle up to 80 weeks, which is the major time point for any production nutritionist to look for maintaining any eggshell quality and production. Also, another important thing is we are not feeding any phytase in the diet of the hens before 40 weeks of age. So whatever phytase we are feeding will be slowly from 40 weeks of age and onward. So it's going to get some information. I mean, this is anything that will result would be the effect of phytase and not a carryover effect that might have been possible.
Okay. And in your opinion, what would you say is the overall impact of this study?
A laying hen lays an egg almost every day in her lifetime. That's a huge turnaround of calcium and phosphorus from her diet to blood to bone and egg. However, we still have a very little understanding of the practical application of calcium particle size, how it's solubilized in the gut, and use of phytase at different level, especially with the higher than what has been recommended in the current industry. Investigating this practical application in a university setting like ours will give us an opportunity to have replicates and also run a study in a controlled environment that could help us to find the connection between the calcium particle size and phytase. And this will help you to understand eventually how we could harness those two factors. One is the calcium particle size and another is the enzyme phytase to maintain these bone health, gut health, and egg quality, and overall the hen welfare. Also, the finding of this study will help laying hen nutritionists to understand the impact of calcium particle size either at the same level that has been fed or coarser than they are using now. Phytase level, also the same, like either same level that has been currently fed or if they can go a little bit higher. And also look into these interactions. So I think that will be the major thing.
Thank you. And thank you so much for sharing your work with us. Is there anything else that the industry should be excited to look forward to?
Thank you again, Dr. Hurd and US Poultry and its foundation for this wonderful opportunity. This is so fun to talk about my upcoming work plan in this great platform. I should also thank Dr. Michael Elliott, who is a nutritionist, and we are collaborating together in this project. He's the one who would brainstorm and help my lab to set up some ideas that can practically help the layer industry and understand the role of these calcium and phytase more in extended layers. Our lab has been focusing on improving the nutritional aspect, such as calcium phosphorus utilization for better egg and bones, protein and amino acid utilization for optimal production, welfare management and strategies for different housing system of hen, and reducing foodborne pathogens in hen house and eggs to provide the better food safety for consumers. So my lab also collaborates with Langhan Industry to work and address these areas, and I'm very excited to share these findings and knowledge to the poultry egg industry through scientific meetings, interviews like this, talks, published articles, and serve this industry overall. Thank you.
Awesome. And thank you so much again. And I know myself as well as the industry will be anxiously awaiting the results. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Her.